Okay, a question that I received from a few people is, how do I get stronger? What is the best way to go about this? The number one rule of getting stronger is progressive overload. If you are not providing progressive overload into your programming, then you will not get stronger. If you do the same thing every time you go to the gym, then you're not given a reason for your body to change. So there's many ways you can go about progressive overload, but we'll just focus on the traditional way of using weight. Now, it's impossible for you to add weight to the bar every week, especially beyond the beginner stage. Otherwise, everybody would be training for 2 years and we'd all be benching 300 kilos or something crazy like that. So the first thing is, you want a program that offers progressive overload, but in a steady way, and also cycles how you do this. Now, if you want to get stronger, constantly loading really heavy and going to failure and maximally lifting every session is not going to get you stronger. You may even find that this makes you weaker due to the effect that it will have on the body, in particular the nervous system. Just you'll feel drained and tired. And an example of this, if you went into the gym and you decided to deadlift as heavy as you can every session, I can pretty much guarantee your weights would go down pretty quickly. So you want a program that progressively overloads you. So an example of this in the traditional powerlifting sense would be week 1 you may start with 5 sets of 10 at 65%, and in the next week maybe 5 sets of 8 at 70%, and you gradually increase this over a period of time, working your way up to maybe 5 sets of 5 at 85%. And then you may recycle through this again, but this time moving the max that you've calculated this percentage off up by 5 kilos, for example, and you run through that cycle again. That is a very simple way of doing this. Jim Wendler's 5-3-1, 5x5 starting strength. So I have the daily undulating periodization model as well, that's very popular now. These are all solid programs that provide a well-structured way of overloading yourself. And the next thing is that you want to make sure that you have a selection of exercises within your program that remain constant, so that they're used as monitoring tools. If we do an exercise for 4 weeks, then we change it, then how do we know if we're getting stronger? Now, this doesn't mean that every exercise in your program needs to be the same all the time, but you should pick a handful of exercises that remain constant for a minimum of 8 weeks, I'd say. But I tend to keep people that I work with in 12 weeks, maybe even longer, on the same sort of exercises, depending on their goals and their training experience. I talked a little bit about using percentages as a way of progressively overloading. Now, another method that you can use is the RPE scale from Mike Toucher, which, if you want to have a look into that, visit Reactive Training Systems. What this is very similar to the RPE scale that is used traditionally for cardio, so rate of perceived exertion, 10 being all out and 1 being completely easy. In a lifting sense, an 8 RPE basically means you'd have 2 reps left. I think Lane Norton also has developed, may not have come from him, RIR, reps in reserve, which I think over time RPE may change to this. So an example of progression using this way, maybe you have 3 sets of 5 at 2 RIR, so 3 sets of 5 with 2 reps in reserve left in the tank. The next week you may do 3 sets of 5 with 1 RIR, so 1 left rep in the tank. This again would be an easy way of progressively overloading, and you'd cycle this up and down. So how do you get stronger without working at your maximal loads? How does this work? Well, if you can progress in the lower percentages of your maxes, it's much easier to recover, it's safer, it gives you a chance to practice skill in the movement, which is a way of getting stronger. We can build some volume, which means we're going to hopefully build more muscle from this volume. It's a lot easier to do getting lots of volume, 5 sets of 8 for example at 70%, than it would be to get the same volume from like 10 sets of 3 at like 90%, which would have a lot different effect on the system, or even though the volume's the same. And you know, the more muscle that you can build, the stronger you likely are going to be for the majority of people. Most people do not possess enough muscle to get stronger, and perhaps sometimes focus too much on these like lower rep ranges of like starting strength model where everything's like 5 reps, and never spend any time doing some bodybuilding stuff, which is valuable for gaining strength. Another thing to include into your program is some built-in testing. Now, getting stronger doesn't mean that we have to always test a 1 rep max. We can test, you know, what's the most weight that we've used for a set of 8 on a squat, or what's the most we've used for a set of 6. It doesn't necessarily have to be one all-out effort. I like to include AMRAP sets in people's programs. It gives the individual a goal to aim for and something to go up against without totally trashing them or putting them at a high risk of injury, which we may get from constantly using really higher loads testing this way.